So, Sandy, let's come to you now and back to the UK. And we've been hearing about levelling up for a very long time. The government, of course, would like to convince us that this is about lifting the standards of the poorest in the country. My personal view is quite the contrary. It's about lowering the standards and destroying the middle class, in a sense, in many ways. But what are your thoughts on what's actually behind the levelling up agenda?
Yeah, I mean, I got into this really because I was looking last week at the freeports, and that is all part of the levelling up agenda, so they say. And I see it as something very different. And it's interesting how the narrative of levelling up is really about equalising certain areas of the UK from the poorest areas to the richest areas, and just somehow making that equitable. But actually, this isn't really, I was looking at the Levelling Up and Regeneration bill, and in that bill, they have, I think it's 12 different, I suppose they call them, their mission statements of how they're going to level it all up. And there's productivity is increased, research and development, public transport, broadband, AI, education gap, skills training, all these things that sound very, very worthy. And actually, they use it really as a way of making it sound like an inclusive and non-partisan, wonderful thing. But actually, it's really a strategy that reframes decades of deindustrialization and austerity and regional neglect, and use it really as a way of calling it benevolent intervention, and we know it's not. So I was looking at these missions and how the Office of Government have criticised it really, because they've actually said that, I mean, it was brought in really by Boris Johnson in 2022, the whole thing, and he obviously this current government is still promoting it, and there's various ways that the government of the Institute of Government have said that this isn't working. This is rubbish, and they've said the missions are not ambitious enough. They're too ambitious to be realistic, and they've managed somehow to put into this whole thing almost like a get out clause. If it's too difficult for them, then they can actually reframe it and even get rid of it. So I'm wondering, is it all just something that they've presented to bring in the corporatization of these free ports, these free zones, so that they can have these big corporate entities controlling these free zones without any worry about taxation, or they've got free imports and exports from these zones. And it really is, it does look as though it's some kind of cover-up, really. They're presenting it as something that's really wonderful for the people, but actually, these the criticisms of the Institute of Government, they've got about 5 criticisms of them. So you just wonder what is really going on here, and even some of the MPs, I think it was Lisa Nandy, said this gives the government permission to tear up their missions on a whim. The bill is more aimed at dealing with housing and planning than it does on levelling up and democracy. And then we've also got Patricia Gibson. She's an SNP politician, and she said the government have given themselves the power to move the goalposts and to change targets that look as though they can't be met. And that's absolutely true. And then you've got a lady from the House of Lords, Baroness Sue Hayman, and she said it's a strange mishmash, a Christmas tree bill that one can hang anything on it, and you can actually hang anything on this bill. So you realise then that actually it's all about corporate governance and replacing government with private corporations, and that's really the be all and end all. And I looked quite deeply into these Obviously, we've got the free ports and the free zones here. I think we've got a map of the free ports, which and the free zones. And the free ports. And I was just looking at all the companies that are going into these areas. And of course, it's all green technology. It's all green tech. These free ports have been taken over to have literally all power to do whatever they like in these areas. And, we've got MarRI-UK, which is the one in Plymouth, which is all about underwater AI systems and marine systems. And it's in partnership with Plymouth University. And then we've got Pensana on Humberside, which is mining rare earth. It's a rare earth processing plant for EV batteries and AI technology. And we've also got SEAH. I don't know how you pronounce all that, but it's making wind turbines. And that's owned by the Chinese, along with British Steel, which I believe is co-owned by the Chinese anyway. And then we've got Teesworks, and they're building net zero power and northern, I think it's endurance partnership. So all of this is really about bringing in technocratic governance. It's and building up that, hollowing out Britain and using all this green tech, which is failing anyway. Nobody's buying EV batteries. So where is this? What is the whole thing with this? Is it just control of the ports? But they seem to be using these big corporations, and I really feel that Britain, it's bargain basement Britain. It's up for the highest bidder. Whatever millionaire wants to come in and buy up and use these free zones can come in, and literally anything can go through those ports. And that's what I'm particularly worried about. These levelling up white papers are closely tied to free ports and investment zones, which are effectively special economic zones with reduced regulation, tax breaks, and often outsourced governance. They can become private enclaves of corporate control, and they undermine national sovereignty, labour rights, and environmental protections under the guise of growth. So we've got all of this going on. And the levelling up, it's a velvet glove really it's an iron fist of centralised technocratic transformation. It cloaks economic zoning, data-driven governance, and it really, it's using the language of fairness and opportunity, which it's not. It's not what it says it is. And at the end of the day, we've really got to think about what this really means. It's not about lifting people out of poverty. It's more about lifting control out of Parliament and local democracy and placing it in the hands of central planners and global finance and technocrats. So there's an awful lot about housing with all of this, and particularly in areas that are deprived. And they're saying, oh yes, this is gentrification, this is making it all good, but this is all tied up also with other programs that are going on. I mean, the housing is out of control, and they're allowed to have free access to planning and free access to police and crime commissioning. So all of that is being taken away from Westminster. And again, it's all part of devolution to take this all out of Westminster and put it in the hands of private corporations. Deeply disturbing. So I think that's probably about it. But I'm just deeply concerned about all of this. It is a recipe for disaster, and it takes away national sovereignty and puts it in the hands of private corporate billionaires.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, if you like what the UK column does, you'd like to support us, support.ukcolumn.org is the place to go. There are options to help us out there. You can make a donation. Remember, if you do that, that absolutely helps us, but it doesn't give you access to UK Column News Extra. If you want that, you need to take out a monthly membership, and you can or an annual membership or a lifetime membership. That will get you access to extra in the forums and so on. You can't support us by picking something up at the UK Column shop, or if you're into supplements from clive2carl.com, and if you use the link on this page, we will get a small commission from that. So thank you to everybody else everybody that is supporting us financially. It is a massive help. But if you can't do that, please do share the material you find on the UK Column website. Share links are provided, but of course share on other platforms as well if you possibly can. And that helps us deal with the censorship regime that we are operating under at the moment. Now, tomorrow at 1 p.m, Diane Rasmussen-McCaddy will be speaking to Professor Dennis Hayes. And Professor Hayes is Director of Academics for Academic Freedom. He's a visiting professor at the University of Buckingham and Emeritus Professor of Education at the University of Derby. And they are looking deeply into the situation in Britain's universities and freedom of speech issues and these types of things. So join us at 1 p.m. Tomorrow for that. A reminder that a couple of previous interviews here that are now on the UK Column website, Nigel Farage and the destructive Toryisation of Reform UK. This is Job West, who I believe South Derbyshire was working for Reform, but resigned sometime a few weeks ago to quite a bit of controversial comments about Nigel Farage and what he's doing with Reform. And I think if you watch this this interview that Brian hosted, you'll find that actually it's a bit of a modus operandi for Nigel Farage. He's been doing this going back to the very beginning of his leadership of UKIP, for example, exactly the same types of tactics, keep people diverted. Stolen by the state. We were talking about the UK government stealing children from families. We have yet another interview covering this. Have a look at that on the UK Column website. Now, Stand in the Light is taking place in May in Cumbria. Details on screen. Details will be in the show notes. If you can possibly get along to that, if you're north of England or want to travel further afield, there's lots going on there. Are we attending?
We absolutely are. So we'll see you there.
Okay, fantastic. Sandy, briefly, a dissident meetup in the southwest.
Yes, we've got the dissident meeting. This is really about questioning about whether to pay your taxes or not, because we're living in such an undemocratic society. And where is our money going? And bearing in mind, we are living at the moment with we don't know. Is our money going to fund wars? These wars abroad. And so we're having this tax rebellion. I'm going to be speaking about devolution, because we've had no say in devolution at all. I mean, it hasn't really been to put all of our hands into these mayors for climate change and to have them in our regional assemblies now. I think it's just appalling, because their main thing will be net zero, and we don't have any choice. We don't want this. That's it.
Yes.
So okay. We're going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Thank you. Brilliant. And that's on Sunday, the 27th of April in Exeter. Details will be in the show notes.